If you've ever attempted any form of creative writing, I'm sure you've heard the sentiment, no plot is completely original. For the most part, this is a pretty accurate assessment. Of course, there's always going to be plots that are interesting and can subvert expectations, but if stories were only ever driven by plot, the fiction market would get pretty redundant pretty quickly. So if you have a novel or a short story or even a piece of fan fiction with some original characters and you want those works to stand out, characters are going to be your saving grace. I am an English major.
Yes, you heard me. An English major.
Well, technically, I'm a double major with literature and creative writing with a minor in professional writing, but English. Several years back, I went to a writer's conference, and something that one of the speakers mentioned about character development really stuck out to me. His simplified claim was, the bases are full. And what he meant by this was characters that are characterized by things like their age, their gender, and their profession are never going to be original unless you add character traits onto that. He used an example of a 40-year-old man that is also a lawyer, or a 16-year-old girl who's in high school but also works at McDonald's. Neither of these characters are super original, and you could find a lot like them, hence the bases are full argument. So when these bases are full, what do you do? There's not a whole lot of complexity to the age, gender, and profession of a character. However, there is a lot of complexity to character traits. Turns out it was a mistake to sit cross-legged. I'm gonna lower myself real quick. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to define character traits as innate or learned personality traits that impact the way the character views the world and how they react to it. And because I often see these two things confused, I'm gonna quickly make the distinction between character traits and character quirks. Character quirks would be things like nail biting, leg bouncing, or other fidgety tendencies that a character may have. These are obviously different from character traits, however, it is nice to see character quirks originate from character traits because it means that everything is connected and it feels more fluid and real. It's super important to establish these traits early on in a story because they have a huge impact on the reader's reaction. Part of the fun of having a character to follow is being able to predict how they're going to react in any given situation. And whenever the character reacts differently from what's expected of them, that can have a huge impact. Some examples of this would be a quiet and submissive character suddenly snapping. This is going to imply either character growth or character regression depending on the context of the story, and it will result in some seriously high tension during the scene. Another example of this would be a very cunning and confident character that cannot come up with a plan. This is going to introduce the low point of the story, it's going to adequately give the reader feelings of defeat, and once again it will also increase the tension because the reader now does not know how they're going to get out of whatever situation they're in. For a final example, if you see a character that's known to be angry and impulsive and they take an insult lying down, that's going to inspire some serious trepidation within the reader as well. And when you have trepidation, you also have high tension. In all three of these scenarios, tensions are high, and that's what you need to keep your readers keyed into the story. But the only way that a writer can achieve this tension is if the reader knows what to expect from the character. If they don't know that the character is quiet and submissive, they're not going to care that they're blowing up at somebody. If they don't know that this character is typically cunning and confident, they won't care that they can't come up with a plan because that just seems like a normal human thing to do. And if they don't know that the character is angry and impulsive, they won't have that sense of fear. They won't think, oh no, the character's been pushed too far, what does this mean for the main character or whoever else is involved? As writers, we want these character traits to be ironed in like wrinkles on a badly ironed linen shirt. But how do we do this? Characters that simply tell the reader what their traits are often feel disingenuous unless they're being written in a very specific style. So for your viewing pleasure today, I have constructed a 7-part plan for how to iron in character traits. I am aware that the writing community is sort of divided between pantsers and plotters. Pantsers being people that don't tend to plan out their books and plotters being the ones that do. So if you are a pantser, you may cringe at all of this because I myself am a plotter. In a big way. But stick around anyway. I spent a very long time doing my makeup today, so please stay. So step number 1 is a pretty basic thing that most writers already do anyway. Before you sit down to plot or write your piece, know who your character is going to be in the beginning of your piece and who they're going to be by the end. This in the beginning can just be a rough idea. It doesn't have to be super detailed. To provide some examples for this video, I am going to be typing out some fake character traits for some fake characters that I've just made on my laptop while I film the video. Our first character is a teenage girl named Charlie, whose story would fit in the contemporary genre. This story that I have no intention to use and have only made for the purpose of illustrating my point in this video is a story of a teenage girl realizing through her high school experience that her crush isn't actually perfect and that she has some self-esteem issues holding her back from realizing her own worth. Since this is a contemporary project and the idea is for this girl to go through a coming-of-age type of story where she realizes a lot of things about herself, character traits are super important to pin down. But contemporary novels are not the only novels where it's essential for good character development to come through. Our next fake novel will be a sci-fi / dystopian type of thing. Our main character will be named Jackson, and I will put an X in his name just in case you were unsure that this was sci-fi. Jackson's story is the story of a boy who discovers that his previously thought to be dead father was kidnapped and is being held captive by an oppressive government that is torturing him for information on how to enslave a nearby alien race. Now that we know the basics of the character's story, let's figure out which personality traits we want to incorporate early on and what we want to see by the end of the book. For Charlie's arc, I want her to be a shy, self-deprecating girl that learns her own worth and recognizes that she's been putting others on a pedestal simply for noticing her. For Jackson's arc, I want him to go from being an embittered, powerless boy to someone that learns that there are joys on Earth worth fighting for, which in turn will allow him to regain his sense of autonomy by fighting back at the evil government that's haunted him. For our second step, we want to start by listing some innate character traits. These are going to be traits that are not a product of their environment and are simply just part of them. Some people are going to be more inclined to act a certain way, irregardless of the environment that they grew up in, and these are the types of traits that we're looking at in this particular step. For every trait that we list out, we're going to make an input/output list. Let me show you what this is going to look like. For Charlie's innate trait or traits, we're going to be looking at her shyness. This will be the input. Once we know what our input is, we can then go ahead and start brainstorming what some outputs of being shy would be. I've made a lovely, very primitive arrow to show that we are moving into outputs. Now, when we first do this, we want to just look at all the aspects of being shy, even if they may not fit for Charlie specifically. We'll cancel out the ones that don't fit later. Some results of being shy that I can think of are withdrawal from social outings, being soft-spoken, and a willingness to let others talk for her. I'm sure that you can probably think of more outputs for being shy, but right now we're going to jump over into Jackson's arc. An innate trait that I want to look out for Jackson is ambition. Some potential outputs I could see for an ambitious person would be a willingness to take the lead, a fear of failure, or an inability to be idle or impatient. When you're doing this, it's always a good idea to have at least one output connected to how they view the world and one output connected to how they react to the world. In Charlie's case, that could mean viewing her outgoing peers with awe or jealousy, and in Jackson's case, that could mean that he maybe views his less motivated cohorts with disdain or maybe longing. For the third step, you're going to want to look at the different outputs that you have written out and think about which ones you actually are interested in pursuing. Keep in mind that it would be a good idea to develop these outputs if you leave them in, so make sure not to keep in too many or else you may not have time to adequately develop all of them. Cut out the ones that you're not interested in keeping and move on to the next step. In my case, I'm not going to delete any of the outputs that I've written out just because I want you to see those throughout the video. For the fourth step, we're going to be doing kind of the same thing that we did in step 2, but this time we're going to be doing it with learned traits, so there is an added step. With innate traits, things just kind of happen, and there's not really an explanation for why those traits exist. But for learned traits, there is a reason for them, so you're going to have to put little bookends on either end of your trait. When we go to look at Charlie's traits again, this time we're going to be putting a reason in front of the trait, which will explain where she learned this trait from. I want to look at Charlie's low sense of self-esteem for the first one, but first I need to understand where that came from. In the universe that I've created for Charlie, I've decided that this is going to come from having a distant father. And now we can proceed as we were before, just listing out some of the outputs that could come from having a low sense of self-esteem. And in Charlie's case, I'm going to theorize that she could behave like a doormat, that she could idolize her crush simply for talking to her, and that she could hold herself back from opportunities. Moving on to Jackson's learned traits, I want to look at his strong sense of cynicism. I'm just going to go ahead and connect the dots from the plot that I've laid out for him and his character and say that his father's death probably had a pretty big impact on how he behaves. And in this case, I'm going to say it made him cynical. So we can just go ahead and add father's death as the source for his cynicism. And now we're back to where we were before. I'm going to assume that Jackson has trouble trusting people, and because of that, he has trouble forming bonds. I'm also going to assume that he has a lack of motivation because his efforts will feel meaningless. People that tend to be very cynical can also sometimes suppress self-love and happiness, so I'm going to add that as well. And finally, because this is a sci-fi dystopian story and he does need to be a little bit reckless, I'm going to add in that he is uncaring of personal safety, because that can open up a whole lot of doors for us when we write our book. For the fifth step, we're going to cut out all the outputs that we don't see ourselves using, and once we have all the outputs that we do see ourselves using, we're going to create a very loose hierarchy. This hierarchy will have the ones that you want to develop the most at the top, and the ones that you'll realistically only give an offhand mention to at the very bottom. Once again, I'm not going to do this for the characters that I've crafted for this video, just to keep all the traits there where you can see them. Now at this point you might be thinking, this is feeling a little bit formulaic and not very true to how real human beings act. And you might be right about that, but as the creators of the narrative, we have time constraints. Each detail, especially in character development, needs to be thoughtfully crafted and implemented. As a writer, you have a word budget, you have a market that you have to appeal to, and most importantly, you have a reader that's expecting a thoughtfully crafted protagonist, and ironing in character traits will give them that protagonist that they're expecting. When you're watching a film, you expect all the scenes to have some kind of significance. That significance might be comic relief or something similarly fluffy, but if it is related to a character, it should be impacting how the audience views the character. And when the audience member, or in our case the reader, is taking that in, they're understanding that this moment has importance, whether it be for plot or character development or both. And all of this is going to lead us right into our next step, where we look at finally implementing the traits and the outputs that we've laid out. Step number 6 is to plan out 2 to 4 scenes that intentionally showcase the impact of a character's traits, whether that impact be on their reactions or their view of the world or both. Now the biggest thing here is to not waste this time simply telling your readers that they have these traits. Your character needs to be seen in action. If the reader cannot see the character acting with these traits, it's, for one thing, not going to feel genuine, and it's also not going to be fulfilling the trait's purpose, which is to impact the plot, the character development, and the tension in the story. These scenes should be planned to happen in the beginning of the novel, and because of this, they should have equal relevance in plot and character development. Later on in the book, when your reader is already hooked, then you can afford to have a scene that's solely devoted to character development or a scene that's solely devoted to the plot. But since we're talking about the beginning of the story, your reader's likely not invested enough to handle a scene that is purely character development or purely plot driven, because they're likely going to be more interested in one thing than the other. And with this advice you may say, wait, but I can't do that. If you're unable to connect your character's arc to the plot of the story, you may want to reevaluate either the plot or the character development that you want to implement in the character. Now, let's get into some examples of this. For Charlie's scene, I want to introduce the crush because he's going to be pretty important to the story, even though I know nothing about him other than the fact that I've said that he's Charlie's crush. For this scene, Charlie is told by an acquaintance that her crush is hosting a party by an abandoned mine shaft. This is not an environment that Charlie would be comfortable with because it's a party and she tends to be more shy and reserved. But she ultimately decides to come despite her shyness holding her back. This shows that she is resisting the way that this particular trait of shyness has impacted her view of the world. Because of her shyness, parties aren't exactly a positive thing for her, and she's not really excited to go, but she pushes that trait aside. Showing your characters fighting against a trait is just as effective as them succumbing to the trait. So don't be afraid to start by subverting traits that are already there. Your reader will understand through internal dialogue that this is something that they're struggling with and they're not fully comfortable with it, and then they'll make the connection that this is a trait that they're fighting rather than a trait that they're embracing. Now, the reason that Charlie is doing this is because she wants to go to the party for her crush. That's nailing in the outputs of the trait that we established earlier, which are behaving like a doormat, idolizing her crush, and pushing aside her own limitations for somebody else. Let's go ahead and move into Jackson's scene now. Because we need Jackson to know that his father is alive, I'm going to start with Jackson receiving a cryptic message from somebody claiming to be his father. Jackson does not believe that it's him, which is him accepting his trait of cynicism. But he can't get the message out of his head, which is a result of his innate ambition. This sets Jackson up for a trait war that will likely fuel the plot and his character development at the same time. It'll also really help the reader to see which traits he has because both traits will be heightened as he's trying to decide which trait to follow through with. The final step, step 7, is to follow through until your characters need to break out of their traits. All that you really have to do with this step is simply to make sure that you're remembering which traits were supposed to be important to your character when you started out the book. Of course, with a first draft, you can always go back and edit, and if you decide, maybe I didn't use this trait very much, maybe I'll just go and erase it completely, that's fine fine too. But you'll thank yourself later if you're able to stick to the traits that you had implemented until you're not supposed to stick to them anymore. I really hope that this video was helpful to you, and I hope that you're able to do this with as many or as few characters as you want. This input-output setup has really helped me in creating characters over the years, and I wish I started using it sooner, so I wanted to just put this out into the world and hopefully help out a fellow writer. If you liked this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It would really help me out. And if you'd like to see more of my videos, I put out new videos on the 2nd and 4th Monday of every month, so you can always expect something from me on those days. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.